Uh, all right. I'm here. What's everyone doing? Happy Tuesday. We survived the weekend. And that buzzing is still there in my sound. It's not quite so bad, but still there. All right, how's everyone weekend? How did everyone's weekend go? You guys do anything crazy? I did do some D&D on Sunday, which was good. I didn't do as much as I would have hoped to with my character, but it was what did we do? Oh, that's right. We invaded a pirate's area, and we conquered that. And yeah, we were all glumped up into one area, which made it hard for us to really get any tactics going because we had to break out from that. So it wasn't it was just a bad place to start a combat, but we got through. We did fine. That was Sunday. What did you Saturday? I don't even know. Stuff. It was a weekend. It was a weekend. I was there. How about you guys? Did you guys do anything crazy this weekend? I'm gonna share some climate change stuff here. So we're not gonna go through them because we've gone through enough doomer stuff for in the last, few weeks. I'm just gonna throw them out here so that let you guys have it. Town in Arctic Circle matches Miami's highest temperature this year. Good stuff. Western U.S. hits 130 degrees as Congress bickers over climate infrastructure. Good stuff there. Go away. Western wildfires have burned an area 4 times the size of New York City. Here are some key fires. Good stuff here. I've considered actually reading this one. Amata, I can't spell, can I? There we go. We must step up preparations for extreme heat. Now this one I may want to read, because we've read a few things similar to this. Yeah, I'll just share it so you guys take a look at it. You've read similar things to that before. Oh, of course, this one's also pretty good. Yeah, we're not going to go over it. You guys can take a look at it. This governor withdrew from a climate pact. Days later, he's pleading for help with drought. Who would have thought, right? I mean, that's mind-blowing. How could that be a thing? So, there you go. There's a whole bunch of stuff there for you guys to consider. For climate change, if you want to get your fix of doomerism for climate, it is there in plenty. All right, we will start with this one. Any questions, comments, and suggestions before we get started? Think about your weekend. It's not that big. A lot of these are a lot smaller than I was expecting, but if we need to, we can go over some of these just to go over them. So I almost didn't have enough content last time, so we went too quickly. Anybody? Anybody? Yeah, really quiet tonight. I expect it's that 5 o'clock start, which is problematic. Probably need to start at about 5:30. I was thinking about starting at 5:30, which might be better. Better for, I think, you guys potentially, although those of you who are in Europe, which is a lot of people that come here, might have a problem with that. But at least here in the US, maybe we'll get more people. Don't know. Do not know. But I did get started on time. Everything's set up. Seems to be working okay. Oh, and in some news, the Baldur's Gate 3 patch, which was supposed to be out today, is being delayed until next week on next Thursday. So I was looking at getting that patched for today and then possibly playing with it today, but next week, next Thursday. So, but this Thursday, of course, the Battle Sector game, the Warhammer 40K Battle Sector comes out. So there'll, yeah, you got that to look forward to. I was playing Solasta this weekend. Yeah, my friend Brian goes by Lydius here. He's gone through the game 4 times already. I don't know if he's on his 4th or 5th playthrough or whatever, but he's just gone through it. He's a machine. I'm on my first full playthrough, and I'm almost max level because they max level at 10. I'm at 9th level currently, and I've got I just received the 4th out of the 9 gems to complete the storyline. So I don't know how that's gonna go from here, but we will see. I think next what I'll do is I'm gonna do an all wizard group, which will be super difficult in some of these fights. Although with a plethora of options for casting, like once you get to like 4th and 5th. If you get to 4th or 5th level spells, you can have a lot of options there. Like a lot of walls and stuff like that to control things. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I gotta finish this playthrough first, and then we'll kind of go from there. So that's where we sit on gaming. All right, anybody else? Anybody? No, it's really quiet. All right, so let's we'll get started. Civilian Climate Corps would be a win-win for climate and equity. Now, I don't know about equity, but I guess we'll see what they have to say. This would be something like an implementation of the federal jobs guarantee, especially as they talk about it within the Green New Deal, especially through AOC. All right, here we go. Fire season is... My phone's ringing. Fire season is on. Remember when we used to call it summer? Remember when the trees were just forests and not fuel? After the scorching June heat wave, the West is primed to burn and firefighting resources will likely be overwhelmed. And that's one reason climate leaders from the Sunrise Movement blockaded the White House last week, demanding a civilian climate corps, a national mobilization to put hundreds of thousands of people to work responding to climate impacts and building an equitable clean energy economy. The proposal is inspired by the Civilian Conservation Corps. We read an article on this months ago from FDR, right? One of the several massive federal jobs initiatives in the New Deal. At its peak, the Civilian Conservation Corps employed 500,000 people building trails and bridges, reducing soil erosion on farmlands, and dramatically improving the health and well-being of millions of families. The original Civilian Conservation Corps was a response to staggering unemployment and poverty. Today, the economy is recovering from COVID shock, but youth unemployment remains stubbornly high, and black workers are nearly twice as likely to be unemployed as white workers. Again, the systemic and structural violence there, it's that racism. Above and beyond the need to address persistent underemployment, we face an urgent imperative to tackle the rapidly escalating climate crisis in a way that responds to the crisis of inequality. As overwhelming as these challenges seem, they're not mysterious. Let's get the music on here. Okay, they're not mysterious. To address the cause of climate disruption, we need to replace fossil fuel energy and transportation systems with more equitable, clean energy-powered systems. There are no insurmountable technical or economic barriers to this transition. Definitely economic. Indeed, Washington State is busy demonstrating how the new system can cost less, improve public health, and reduce inequality. We also know how to address some of the impacts of climate change disruption. For example, forest thinning and controlled burning can make wildfires more manageable and build community resilience. We know what to do. The question is whether we know how to act together as a national community at the pace and scale required. The challenge of scale is about physical infrastructure, but it's also about people. This transition requires enormous numbers of hands and hearts, and a nation keenly focused in its collective determination to do the job. To meet this pressing need, Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, of New York have introduced the Civilian Climate Corps for Jobs and Justice Act. This new CCC would invest in pathways to good union jobs and prioritize work in historically marginalized communities, the communities that do the least to cause climate disruption and suffer the worst impacts. And crucially, the mobilization would be big, employing 1.5 million workers over the next 5 years, so 300,000 people a year. The CCC enjoys enthusiastic public support, with 77% in favor and only 16% opposed, according to data for Progress, which conducted a survey of 1,566 likely voters nationally. President Joe Biden included a mini CCC in his American Jobs Plan, which would employ about 30 to 40,000 Corps members per year. For comparison, the original CCC deployed 250,000 people in its first 2 months. In a country with less than half as many people, but even this token effort was dropped in the bipartisan infrastructure negotiations. Exactly, and this is why we need to say fuck bipartisan and just pass it. We have, as far as my understanding, the ability to do it. So just fuck bipartisanship, because that's just ridiculous. This may be our Achilles' heel in the fight for serious climate action, the puny state of collective ambition in our nation's capital. But there's just no way around it. This climate challenge is nothing if not big, and equitable climate solutions require collective public action and an unprecedented scale. We can't nickel and dime this thing. A robust CCC would signal that new bigness and collective agency in our national posture. It would herald a bold national project, putting over 1 million people to work in good jobs, responding to pressing human needs, actively addressing racial and economic injustice, and tackling climate change with both hands. So much good work to do, so many people who need good jobs, and it's getting so damned hot. Our house is on fire, and we desperately need a big, bold public bucket brigade like the CCC. Okay, so yeah, this is quick. Just a quick article talking about this, and yeah, this is definitely one way to start with dealing with it, but it requires, the original CCC employed 250,000, right? And we're gonna do like what they say. Blah 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 blah. Where is it? Oh yeah, 300,000 a year. Okay. Oh yes. Okay. So the first one was 250,000 people, and this one is 300,000 a year. Okay. So it's all right. Yeah, we definitely need to do this, and this is a great start towards getting parts of the Green New Deal in moment by moment. But we honestly need a civilian corps that's not just on climate. We need basically to have one in every state, in every city, and have it to basically give people work to do, and that helps out the local community itself. And that's what the Green New Deal has been positing, but this is just a smaller way to get it in there. So this is good. Definitely need it. All right, any thoughts on that? Now, I know there's lots of protests and stuff going on here, and I haven't, not a whole lot of articles that come across my feed on this topic, unfortunately. So I know there's Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela. Where else? There's Ethiopia. I'll say South Africa too, possibly. There's protests and stuff going on all over the world. And this is the only article I've seen run through my Facebook feed. Not a whole lot through my Twitter either. All right, let's do this. Protests in Cuba defend the revolution. Now, I've seen the breaking points with Crystal and Sagar, their coverage of this, and it's pretty crazy that the American, government may be behind most of it. Honestly, not that we wouldn't start with that as the reason for it, because there's American trained actors and former military people who worked with the military or something like that in there, and all sorts of crazy stuff going on. But let's see what they have to say. The situation in Cuba is serious. On Sunday, 11 July, there were protests in various towns and cities in Cuba that have enjoyed widespread coverage in the international media. How could it be otherwise? Where do these protests come from? What is their character? How should we as revolutionaries respond? This is from a site called In Defense of Marxism, so this is probably a socialist, communist site, Marxist, socialist, or whatever, right? The protests began in San Antonio de los Baños, Artemisia province, 26 kilometers southwest of the capital, Havana. The immediate motivation for the protests, which brought hundreds of people to the street in San Antonio, were prolonged and constant power outages, but this factor must be added to an accumulation of problems which have become particularly serious since the beginning of the pandemic 16 months ago. Shortages of basic products, shortages of medicines, the fall in the purchasing power of wages. Added to all of this is the worsening of the pandemic in recent days with the arrival of new, much more contagious variants, such as the Delta variant from India, at a time when only 15 to 20% of the population have been fully vaccinated, putting the healthcare system under a lot of strain in several provinces. Now, this I am surprised about. I expected them to be much more highly vaccinated because they've got at least three vaccines. I know at least one that has been approved, and they've got at least 2 or 3 more in the pipeline. So I definitely expected this to be a lot larger, especially with them having universal health care here. So this is a little bit concerning, especially if the Delta variant is hit there, because that thing is not fucking around. Clearly, there was a genuine component to the protest in San Antonio, something that President Diaz-Canel himself later recognized that grew out of the real hardship facing the people. Slogans that brought hundreds of people out to the streets in San Antonio were "We want vaccines" and the demand for a solution to their immediate problems, which was put to the local authorities. But we would be blind if we did not see that there was also another factor. For days, there has been an intense campaign orchestrated by counter-revolutionary elements on social networks under the slogan SOS Cuba. The campaign has 2 aims. 1, try to create a social uprising, protests in the street through dissemination of exaggerated, biased, or directly false information, for example, about the health situation in Matanzas, the area most affected by the pandemic, and the abstract call to protest in the streets. 2, with the excuse of the health emergency situation, partly real and partly exaggerated, to promote the idea of the need for a humanitarian intervention by foreign powers to help Cuba. Now, there's some thoughts that these are all American, CIA plans or whatever plans to try and help prime that so that the U.S. can go in there and do its, dirty work and destroy the economy and destroy everything, right? Because that's what we do. The hypocrisy of the personalities, artists, musicians, etc., who have promoted the campaign is incredible. Where was the campaign in favor of an international intervention in Brazil, or Peru, or Ecuador? All countries that have suffered COVID-19 mortality rates 10, 20, or 50 times higher than those of Cuba. Yep, okay, fair. This hypocritical campaign is a clear attempt to justify a foreign imperialist intervention against the revolution under the cover of humanitarian aid. Okay, yep, sounds good. We have seen this before in Libya, in Venezuela, in Iraq. We know what is really behind these so-called, quote, humanitarian interventions. Imperialism. Specifically, U.S. imperialism, right? We could not imagine a greater degree of cynicism. The same powers that apply a blockade. Sorry, I heard something. Maybe some of the family's home. The same powers that apply a blockade against Cuba, which prevent it from trading on the world market, from purchasing medicines and supplies to manufacture them, are now demanding that the Cuban government open a humanitarian corridor. Again, the U.S. is responsible for much of that for having an embargo on Cuba. A serious situation. At the protest in San Antonio de los Baños, some raised the slogan that has brought together the counter-revolution in recent months. Homeland and life. Patria y vida. In opposition to the slogan of the revolution of homeland or death, we will win. But according to reports from comrades there, they were not the majority. Since yesterday, a call was made in a Facebook group in which the majority of the Guanabens locals, in order to protest against the blackouts of up to 6 hours that this town suffers. We started as something small, grew as they moved through the main arteries of town. It was a very heterogeneous mass where various thoughts and ideologies surely coexist. I've seen that some of the launch slogan of Patria y Vida, but the majority, I believe, is just going with the general flow. Very quickly, the information about the protest in San Antonio de los Baños spread through social media networks and was distorted and amplified by counter-revolutionary elements that were calling for similar protests to take place in other parts of the country. There are many rumors about this, and as is often the case, many of them are false, but it seems that there were protests in a significant number of cities and towns across the island. In these cases, the counter-revolutionary component, in terms of slogans, the people who encouraged them, etc., was much more dominant than in San Antonio de los Baños. Apart from homeland and life, they shouted down with the dictatorship, freedom, and so on. In Camagüey, the protesters confronted a police patrol and ended up overturning a police vehicle. In Manzanillo, a comrade reported that very young teenagers were protesting on Maceo Street, the main artery going to the upper area of Manzanillo, which has been without water for 7 days. The president of the city government arrived to try to establish dialogue. Expletives and insults were hurled, and finally there was also an exchange of stones between local revolutionaries and those protesting. Okay, that's interesting. So why would the revolutionaries and protesters be fighting? That doesn't make sense. And there's definitely some stuff here I don't quite get here. But another comrade described the events in Santa Clara, where two groups of no more than 200 people surrounded the police station and attempted to take over the headquarters of the Communist Party. Another group of about 400 people organized to repel them. Okay. According to this report, the protest was mainly composed of very young people, teenagers, and quite a few marginal elements. The slogans were "Down with Communism," against Diaz-Canel, but many of those present also made an appearance without shouting any slogans. For his part, Luis Manuel Otero Alcantara, one of the most prominent figures of the counter-revolution on the island, calling for a gathering at the Malecon seafront in Havana. The call was echoed by the whole of the reactionary media in Miami and their social media networks, which are widespread in Cuba. During the afternoon, a group of less than 100 people gathered at the Malecon. Later, more people joined, forming a group of several hundred, in which it was difficult to distinguish between those who were protesting and those who were just watching to see what happened. Protests moved to various parts of the city, the capital, the Revolution Square, etc., and it grew to a sizable crowd of perhaps 1,000 people. Comrade described the social composition as very diverse. There are some who come from the people, but also the bourgeois type, many marginalized elements, urban lumpen, and young people. President Diaz-Canel appeared in San Antonio de los Baños, from where he made statements and later addressed the country in in a televised address in which he called on the revolutionaries to take to the streets to defend the revolution. This was answered in various parts of the country, including Havana. The international media obviously did not care to show this because it does not fit with the idea of what they want to convey. To give some examples, here are scenes from a march in Velascoin. Okay. Okay. There's a gathering of revolutionaries in front of the Museum of the Revolution. A whole bunch of people. Look at that. Later on 10 October. I don't understand any of it, but people there, good. There are also incidents, confrontations, and stone throwing on the part of the counter-revolutionaries. My comrade who was in one of the rallies in defense of the revolution states, I was attacked. Now I also know what it's like to see an enraged mass walking towards you. I was afraid. They almost lynched me. They threw water, rum, and they threw stones at me, though they didn't hit me. I experienced several scenes of violence near me. There were police interventions against protesters and selective arrests. It's clear that even in a very difficult situation of hardship and scarcity, the Cuban Revolution still has a broad social base of support that, seeing the revolution come under threat, is prepared to take to the street to defend it. Those who came out in defense of the revolution have also suffered the same condition as those now protesting against it. And many may well also have criticisms of the government's management in some of its decisions and of the bureaucracy, but at the moment of truth, they know that they must come out to defend the revolution. Okay, so when they're talking revolution, counter-revolution, I'm not sure who's referring to what. Those who want change, which are they? And those who are defending the existing government, which I'm assuming means, the communist, socialist regime or whatever, and so on. So that I'm a bit confused on, because they're not being quite so clear on that. They have a known audience who knows what they're going to be talking about or the context of what they're talking about, and I'm not exactly that audience. So I'm a little bit confused on that. What do these events represent? It must be said that yesterday's protests are significant beyond the exaggerations of the imperialist media. These are the largest expressions of protest in Cuba since 1994, since the 1994 Maleconazo, and they come at a time of deep economic crisis in which the leadership of the revolution does not have the same authority as it had back then. What are the causes of the economic and social crisis that Cuba is experiencing today? A series of historical problems are combined with other more recent ones. Among the first, the blockade, the isolation of the revolution in a backward country, and the bureaucracy. Among the latter, the measures taken by Trump to further economically asphyxiate the revolution, policies which have not been reversed by Biden, of course, because Biden, and above all, the impact of the pandemic and its impact on tourism, one of the main sources of Cuba's hard currency income. Okay, we discussed both of these factors in an article of October of last year. To this must be added the impact of the measures taken by the Cuban government in January in response to this very deep economic crisis, and also in recent days, the strong increase in COVID-19 cases due to the arrival of new variants. The problems are serious, very serious, but in order to give consideration to their solution, we have to understand their causes. First among these causes is the blockade. Second, the total unequal relationship between the Cuban planned economy and the world capitalist economy. Thirdly, the pandemic and its economic and health impact. And finally, the impact of the bureaucratic management of the economy in terms of waste, inefficiency, indolence, etc. Faced with this situation, what position should we as revolutionaries take? In the first place, it must be clearly explained that the protests called by the Luis Manuel Otero Alcantara and other related elements are openly counter-revolutionary, although they try to capitalize on a sense of malaise that emanates from the very difficult objective conditions. Problems and hardships are real and genuine, but the protests under the slogan Homeland and Life and Down with the Dictatorship are counter-revolutionary. Okay? So there are confused elements participating, to be sure, but in the midst of the confusion, it is inevitable that those who dominate these protests are, from a political point of view, counter-revolutionary. So going against the communism, socialism thing. They are organized, motivated, and have clear objectives. It is therefore necessary to oppose them and defend the revolution. If those who promote these protests and their mentors in Washington achieve their goal, the overthrow of the revolution, the economic and health problems suffered by the Cuban working class will not be solved, but on the contrary, will be aggravated. Okay? You only have to look at Bolsonaro's Brazil or neighboring Haiti to convince yourself of this, right? Because if the United States is, well, it is a part of what's going on here, and if they do overthrow the Cuban government, they will install a further right-wing piece of shit in there, and it'll be much worse than it is now. In the struggle that is opening up in Cuba, we are unconditionally on the side of defending. Curly Bear, how you doing? Welcome. Welcome. Nice quiet day today. How you doing? Reading an article on Cuba and the protests and stuff going on there. You're okay? Cool. Yeah, I've been, I had Dungeons and Dragons on Sunday, so that was good. I played some Solasta, which is kind of a D&D game on computer this weekend. So that's a lot of what I've been doing. Yeah. Got some work today done at work. That was nice. I'm trying to develop an intranet for our county government. So I've been working on that, and I got a big part of that done. I have to go ahead and test some of that out. Make sure it's working. Maybe start getting people to work on, start using it. First, we're going to open up to our department. I work for the MIS department, the Management Information Systems people. So hopefully we can get them starting to use it and trying it out and make the improvements from there. So much work. But yeah, that's me. All right. In the struggle that is opening up in Cuba, we are unconditional. Okay, that was the wife. All right. In the struggle that is opening up in Cuba, we are unconditionally on the side of defending the Cuban Revolution. Already, all the gusanos in Florida are demanding a military intervention in Cuba. In a press conference yesterday, the mayor of Miami-Dade County, and Commissioner Joe Carollo, the former mayor of Miami, jointly requested Biden to intervene in Cuba within the framework of the Monroe Doctrine. That doesn't sound good. All this talk about Cuba creating their own vaccine, I actually didn't realize things were this bad there. Yeah, it's kind of come up in this last week or so, because there's like protests and stuff going on in Haiti, in Cuba, Venezuela, in Ethiopia. There's like a whole bunch of countries that have some stuff going down, and it's like, what? I mean, you know, capitalism and all that, right? And the horrors of the United States' foreign policy, breaking backs and shit. But yeah, something's happening there. They're having issues with electricity, and yeah, it said earlier that it's like 20% of people have had access to the vaccine, and they have their own vaccine. I was really kind of like stunned at that. They've got their own vaccine. Their people should have a high level of vaccination because, you know, it's their vaccine and all that. And it, you know, they've been sending their doctors and stuff all over the world to try and help the world deal with this, but they're still not, you know, dealing with their own people. So it's a little bit surprising. A little bit surprising. Yeah, they're talking about because they don't have many people vaccinated. The rise of the Delta variant is most likely coming in and really stressing the hospitals, and they're having blackouts and stuff for energy. So yeah, stuff's going on there. And of course, the US blockade of it sure as hell isn't helping. All right, so where were we? Okay, yeah, so Monroe Doctrine. Let's look at Monroe Doctrine. This is a problematic thing. Whoa. This is squished. See, okay, this says the Monroe Doctrine was United States policy that opposed European colonialism in the Americas. It argued that any intervention in the politics of the Americas by foreign powers was a potentially hostile act against the United States. Okay, so it's saying European powers stay the hell out of the Americas, Central and North and South America. Okay, and we might consider an act against the United States itself. Okay. See, the Monroe Doctrine was issued December 2nd, 1823, at a time when nearly all Latin American colonies of Spain had achieved or were at the point of gaining independence from the Spanish Empire. It stated that further efforts by the various European states to take control of any independent states in Americas would be viewed as the manifestation of an unfriendly disposition towards the United States. At the same time, the doctrine noted that the U.S. would recognize and not interfere with existing European colonies nor meddle in the internal affairs of European countries. Okay, interesting. Okay, all right. To intervene in Cuba within the framework of the Monroe Doctrine. Okay, I don't know what the framework of that. Okay, maybe we can have that over here. Framework. All right, well, it's a thing. We'll keep going. But our conditional defense of the Cuban Revolution does not mean that we are uncritical in the debate on the most effective way to defend the Cuban Revolution. We clearly defend a class-based and internationalist perspective and are for workers' democracy. Secondly, must also be clearly stated that the methods that the bureaucracy uses to try to face the problems confronting the revolution are inadequate and in many cases counterproductive. See, for example, economic reorganization. Pro-capitalist measures weaken planning and state ownership, as well as increasing social differentiation and strengthening the capitalist elements on the island. This creates the social base for these protests. The absence of workers' democracy, in addition to disorganizing the economy, feeds indolence, disinterest, and inefficiency. Okay, the methods used by the bureaucracy in response to counter-revolutionary provocations are also in many cases themselves counterproductive. Censorship, bureaucratic restrictions, and arbitrariness do not serve to defend the revolution when what is needed is political discussion, revolutionary ideological rearmament, accountability, and workers' democracy. Okay, so they didn't go into too heavy detail here about that. If you guys have a better article on this, I would love to see it. I know Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar covered it today a bit, which was kind of cool. But I haven't seen a whole lot run by my feet. All right, any thoughts on that? Questions? Or move on to something, well, yeah, I don't know so much about either. Most of what I've been seeing is that the U.S. is basically partially responsible for the uprising. Maybe some actual uprising there because of things that are going on there, but there may be a very strong corporate American element there, so that we can do our usual invade, or at least foster a coup and install some right-wing asshat. That's a lot of what's probably going on there, but I'm not sure. Hopefully, whatever the U.S. does doesn't work and doesn't create anything worse. You just won't deal with Cuba or corporations there, but that does not prevent other countries. That's kind of what the Monroe Doctrine, I think, is kind of saying. But obviously the U.S. is going to meddle, and it looks like the U.S. probably is meddling with Cuba, right? Because that's what we do. And we've had sanctions on them for 60 years or something like that. And who knows what other stuff is going on here. Like, I read a Venezuelan guy had a business in Florida, like a security business in Florida, and there was a hospital, or there's a guy who was supposedly a doctor who wanted to be the president of Cuba, so he hired people to do a military try and take over or something. I think that's what was happening in Cuba. Maybe that's Haiti. Maybe it's Haiti. I don't know. That's probably Haiti. That's probably what's happening in Haiti. Cuba is just a protest. I don't know. A lot of stuff going on. Most likely just a lot of U.S. meddling in it, taking advantage of the protests that are happening and trying to capitalize on it to turn it into something not good. Yeah, it is. All of it is bullshit. Yeah, and that's if the United States would stop being the global terrorist, the world would be such a much better place. We could end these sanctions. We could help Cuba in their socialist experiment and see how amazing they could potentially be. And we could help lift up Central and South America and Africa and help lift them up so they can be great. Them talk yesterday, it sounded disingenuous, made me sick. Who talk? How we were siding with the people. What's going on here? What's going on here? How the United States was siding with the people. Biden said he stands with the people of Cuba, if I remember correctly, but of course that's just political posturing. Doesn't mean anything. While the CIA or whoever else may be working on the inside trying to foment a coup or whatever is going on. Yeah, a lot of it's just performative theater, just to so that they're saying the right talking points. That's supportive, and then the government and the military does something else to not help and to make things worse. Coup is what they want. Install their right-wing dictator and say, see, socialism bad. It's all bullshit. He doesn't care about them. Right, it's all about the coup. Yep, and that shit's going in the streets in the U.S. Yeah, yep, yep, and that's the problem, and that's something that's got to stop. It's got to stop. We have to end the sanctions on Cuba and then start leaving them the hell alone. Or actually, get rid of the sanctions and start with a trade relationship with them. That's what we need to be doing. Yeah. All right. Next, cruise ships are back, and it's a catastrophe for the environment. Of course, we kind of know that. They dump all that stuff in the water. They're garbage. They're human waste in there, and it's just of course, there's a lot of fossil fuels involved in this as well, so it's just one huge pollution factory wherever it goes. All right, cruise ships kill whales, leak gray water, and are largely exempt from U.S. taxation. When they violate the law, they pay the equivalent of a parking ticket. Exactly. Look at it. It's ginormous. This isn't so big, I guess. Okay, so maybe 12 or so decks. Pretty big. Let's see, after Holland America ship accidentally leaked 22,500 gallons of gray water into Glacier Bay in 2018, the state of Alaska fined the company $17,000. Holy shit. The National Park Service fined it $250. Yikes. How about 10 times the number of gallons? So we start with $225,000. Go from there. Yeah, if it's fines like this, it basically means it's just a write-off, an expense write-off. So it doesn't mean anything to anyone. It's got to have some teeth in it. Decades ago, when I worked as a ranger in Alaska's Glacier Bay National Park, each cruise ship that entered the bay carried hundreds of passengers. Today, they carry thousands. They don't look like ships anymore. They look like the boxes the ships came in. Huge floating milk cartons, ponderous and white. But once they get moving, they're a force, one that occasionally strikes whales. In July 2001, the carcass of a humpbacked whale known as Snow, due to the white markings on her fluke, was found floating in the bay. An investigation concluded she had died of massive trauma to her skull and cervical vertebrae, consistent with a vessel collision. Princess Cruise Lines, purchased by Carnival in 2003, eventually pleaded guilty to failing to operate its vessel, the Dawn Princess, at a slow and safe speed while near humpback whales, violating both Marine Mammal Protection Act and the Endangered Species Act. Passengers of the crew had spotted humpbacks near the ship, but the ship didn't change course or speed. Pursuant to a plea agreement, Princess was sentenced to pay $200,000 fine plus $550,000 to the National Park Foundation for Community Service. Since then, the ships have increased in size. Before COVID-19, Dream Cruises announced it was building a ship that would carry nearly 10,000 passengers and have the first cruise ship theme park with the longest roller coaster at sea. Many ships are already 3 times the volume they were back in my Ranger days, so large they're cities at sea, floating condominiums with hospitality staff always eager to sell you a shore excursion at the next port of call. The Majestic Princess, due in Alaska in late July, has 19 decks. Imagine all that time on the water, but never close to it. For several years, Alaska's bejeweled Inside Passage, crowned by Glacier Bay, had been ranked one of the most popular cruising destinations in the world. After a 21-month absence, including the quiet pandemic summer of 2020, when the bay's whales appeared to prosper, a few big ships are now headed back north. By next year, things could be booming again, with thousands of passengers flooding the streets of Ketchikan, Juneau, and Skagway every summer day, pouring in and out of gift shops and jewelry stores. Some locals will welcome the revenue, while others will bemoan the crowds and noise and ask, is this how it's going to be? Business as usual? Growth forever? Alaska-based pilots who board these enormous ships expressed concern that strong on-beam winds could make them unsafe in tight navigational areas. Okay. If anything should change after COVID-19 and not go back to normal, it's cruise ships and the voracious industry that operates them. It's an industry that co-ops communities, buys up entire waterfronts, if not private islands, in the Bahamas and the Caribbean, and takes a hefty percentage of every shore excursion it sells. In Glacier Bay, the U.S. National Park Service requires that ships suspend all competing activities, casinos, etc., so passengers can partake of ranger-led activities that focus on education and inspiration. The National Park Service also charges a per-passenger fee, which makes the park one of the most solvent and potentially compromised in the national park system. The park's budget now depends heavily on cruise ship money that funds research, salaries, and in-park development. While only 2 ships are allowed in the park each day, there's no limit on their size. Some would call this industry capture, wherein a regulatory authority becomes beholden to an industry it's supposed to regulate. Yeah, that's always going to be a problem. With the money rolling in, they got to serve the moneyed interest. After the Holland American ship Westerdam accidentally discharged 22,500 gallons of gray water into Glacier Bay in 2018, the state of Alaska fined the company $17,000 and the National Park Service fined $250, which is just ridiculous. According to the Ocean Conservancy, gray water discharges can lead to oxygen depletion, spread pathogenic bacteria and viruses, and increase nutrient levels in surrounding ecosystem. Higher nutrient levels can lead to toxic blooms and dead zones that can cause harmful disturbances throughout food chains. Holland America, like Princess, is a subsidiary of Carnival. Glacier Bay, on the other hand, is not only a national park and preserve, but also a United Nations Biosphere Reserve and a World Heritage Site. Very few places can boast such international recognition. Those that do deserve stringent protection and the utmost respect. And that is why things must change. Few of today's big ships are registered in the US, which largely exempts them from federal taxes. They're going to operate here, take up pier space, burn vast amounts of fossil fuel, and dump their waste in sanctified areas and other nearshore waters. They should be required to register in the US, buy carbon offsets, go as green as possible, pay federal taxes, obey the laws and high safety standards, and when in violation, pay steep fines, if not forfeit their right to sail into places like Glacier Bay forever. Okay, I'm all for that. It's time for the federal government to limit the size of ships allowed in U.S. waters, make them carry more responsibility, not more passengers. Okay, that sounds great. For those already too big, buy them and convert them into dockside homeless shelters, veterans care facilities, and marine research laboratories. Those still in service should be incentivized to focus more on education, less on entertainment. They should employ historians, scientists, naturalists, and indigenous peoples whose ancient homelands the ships sail through. Okay, that sounds awesome. How you doing? Welcome. Sapphoros Greek. How you doing today? Good. We're reading an article here on the kind of the harms of cruise ships getting back up and running and polluting and all sorts of crazy stuff. How you doing? How's your weekend? Whoa. San Francisco gay men's course fit? I did not. What are they saying? Kinda creepy? Okay. Let's go and copy that. This here?
As we celebrate Pride and the progress we've made over these past years, there's still work to be done. So to those of you out there who are still working against equal rights, we have a message for you.
You think we're sinful? You fight against our rights. You say we all lead lives you can't respect. But you're just frightened. You think that we'll corrupt your kids if our agenda goes unchecked. Funny, just this once, you're correct. We'll convert your children. Happens bit by bit, quietly and subtly, and you will barely notice it. You can keep him from disco, warn about San Francisco, make him wear pleated pants, we don't care. We'll convert your children, we'll make them tolerant and fair.
At first I didn't get why you'd be so scared of us turning your children into accepting, caring people, but I see now why you'd have a problem with that.
Just like you worried, they'll change their group of friends. You won't approve of where they go at night to protest. Oh, and you'll be disgusted so gross when they start finding things online that you've kept far from their sight, like information. Guess what? You'll still be alright. We'll convert your children, yes we will.
Reaching one and all, there's really no escaping it.
'Cause even grandma likes
Palestine.
football.
And the world's getting kinder.
Gen Z's gayer than Grindr. Learn to love, learn to vogue, face your fate. We'll convert your children. Someone's gotta teach them not to hate. We're coming for them.
We're coming for your children.
We're coming for them. We're coming for your children. We're coming for them.
Your children will care about fairness and justice for others.
Okay, cool.
Your children will work to convert all their sisters and brothers. Then soon we're all.
Oh, thanks for the follow. Appreciate that. Yeah, they're really leaning into the coming for your children thing and making fun of it. It's kind of entertaining from that aspect.
Your kids will start converting.
Oh, it definitely is satire. Definitely.
The gay agenda is coming home. The gay agenda is here. But you don't have to worry. Because there's nothing wrong with standing by our side. Get on board in a hurry. Because the world always needs a bit more pride. No, you don't have to worry.
Well, the satire of the right thinking that gay people have an agenda of converting children, and it's not a thing, right? They're leaning into that ignorance.
There's nothing wrong with standing by your side. Get on board in a hurry. Because the world always needs a bit more pride.
Come on, try a little pride. We'll convert your children. Then we'll turn to you. Giving up the fear inside is freeing like you never knew.
Go and see San Francisco.
Go and turn up that disco.
You'll forget you were ever
upset. We'll convert your children and make an ally of you yet. We'll make an ally of you yet.
There's assholes, gay and straight.
We'll make an ally of you yet.
Alrighty then. There you go. All right. So there we go. Detour. All right. So, reading this article on cruise ships and what we need to do about them because they are a problem. Got your first shot? Cool. When did you get it? First day, I felt just a little bit strange, but that was pretty much it. You can't lift it up? Oh, okay. Yeah, for me, it's my arm was sore, and I could work with it just fine, but I felt a little bit strange, and that was it for my first one. Second one, I felt a little bit strange during the day, and then that night I was fucking wrecked. Okay, all right, good. Yeah, I had 102-degree fever. I was in bed all day, all the next day. It was just so bad. Both my wife and I got it, and we were both wrecked the next day. So yeah, the first one's not so bad. It's the second one that's the doozy. So be prepared for that one. Be prepared to take. I took 2 days off. I got on Monday, and I took off Tuesday and Wednesday because I was wrecked. So just, yeah, from my experience, be prepared. Second one was going to fuck me up because the antibodies will bear. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the first one primes your body to say, hey, this is a new thing you got to know, and get come up with a plan for attack if it ever happens again. The second one's like, okay, here it is. They got the plan to attack, and then they go nuts, and your body's just war. Yeah, be prepared. It's coming. Chicka. All right. So, it's time for federal government to limit the size of ships allowed in U.S. waters, make them carry more responsibility, not more passengers. For those already too big, buy them and convert them into dockside homeless shelters, veterans care facilities, and marine research laboratories. Those still in service should be incentivized to focus more on education, less on entertainment. They should employ historians, scientists, naturalists, and indigenous peoples whose ancient homelands the ships sail through. I'm all for that. Parents didn't really notice it, so I guess it depends upon the organization. Did I say organization? Which to what? Went from. So you're going from the vaccine to what? What didn't your parents recognize? I mean, shots? I mean, organism. You're talking about the vaccine, right? For them, it was pretty easy. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was at a small party, an outdoor party, talking with some people, and they had theirs, and they were just like, whatevs. It didn't really affect them so much. Both of them like, oh, fuck you, we got wrecked. So yeah, hopefully yours will be much better experience than ours was. But yeah, ours was pretty bad. We had the Moderna one. So that was, yeah, that's what we did. One of the mRNA ones. Pfizer is the other mRNA one. What's the other one? Johnson & Johnson. That one is not mRNA. I'm not sure how well that. Pfizer, yeah, okay. Yep. So, hoping for a good time for you. It doesn't wreck you too bad. All right. Am I anti-cruise ship? No, I'm anti-excess, pro-moderation. I have fond memories of my ranger days in Glacier Bay, telling stories and sharing information because of the ships. Thousands of people can visit Glacier Bay without setting foot on the land. They can have profound experiences. It's so big and beautiful, a woman said, and we stood together at the ship's rail, her eyes drinking up a majestic blue wall of ice, a tidewater glacier, only a quarter-mile away. She added, thank God for our public lands. Later, a man came to me to say, he said to me, say, Ranger, these mountains you got there, they worth anything? They give life to the glaciers that sculpt this bay, I replied. They're also important to the indigenous Tlingit, whose heritage is born of this place. No, he said, I'm talking about minerals and mining. I'm talking about real wealth. So am I. Exactly. So we got a natural, something that exists in the natural world has more intrinsic wealth than just how much money can be derived from it. We've read some articles on this, months ago, that the effects that natural wonders have on the environment is something that we need to value. And because it does stuff. You know, the mountain being there, glaciers being there, has an intrinsic effect on our ecosystem, and that is something that is important. It's worth more than just the amount of money that can be extracted from it. This summer, independent travelers are flooding into Alaska before the big ships return, some to Glacier Bay. There in Bartlett Cove, near park headquarters, they discover the full skeleton of a humpback whale, the one known as Snow, 45-foot long, mounted off the ground in a graceful arc as if flying. After much of her body had decomposed on shore, park staff and volunteers, including school children, donated more than 1,000 hours to clean her 161 bones. Ugh. The money Princess paid in restitution was then used to build an open-sided outdoor pavilion and to rearticulate Snow into a work of art. Visitors stand before her, often in awe. They quietly read about her life and death and find themselves enriched, not because they've been entertained, they've been educated. Former ranger in Alaska's Glacier Bay, Denali, and Katmai National Parks, Kim Hecox, is the author of many books. Portions of this opinion piece are excerpt from his Alaska memoir. Okay, so that. Okay, so there you go. That is that article. Yeah, I was in Yellowstone with a friend of mine, and my friend had a friend who was a park ranger there, and we were able to go there and see some things that most tourists wouldn't get to see. We only had a few hours with them, but that was neat. It was interesting. And I've been to, Yellowstone a few times, Grand Canyon once, Carlsbad Caverns. We did kind of a trip from like Wisconsin down and hit a whole bunch of stuff, then went all the way up and around and back again. Done that twice, and it's oh my god, so much work. Getting too old for that sort of stuff. All right, next. Have you gone to a bunch of national parks and that sort of a thing? Did that years ago, basically before I was married, and my wife was there for the second one. We were dating at the time. That's over 15 years ago. It's probably 16 years ago. Yeah. Long, long time ago. A galaxy far, far away. Yeah, and when we went to the Grand Canyon, we we walked down the Grand Canyon down to the river, kind of the halfway point, and then we walked back up. Oh my God! I never understood how crappy a shape I was in until I did that. Oh my God, my calves were so tight. I could barely keep up with the girls, and they were all, a decade younger than I am, something like that. But oh my God, it was rough getting up there again, walking up that part again. I even said, we should probably, because we passed when we were going a bunch of a donkey train of people, going down and up. I'm like, we should be doing that instead of doing the walking. And on the way back, it's exactly what everyone was thinking as well. All right. Next one. Educators angered over scrapping of COVID-19 mitigation measures in schools. Now, this is something that I'm also annoyed with. Again, it's the CDC under political pressure from the Biden administration to give them the wins they want so that they can just open up and just have the people suffer and deal with the consequences. This is even more of an issue because of the Delta variant, which is here. A few weeks ago, it was like 10% of the new cases, and it's quickly going to overtake all of the other variants as the primary variant. It did so in Britain. It has overtaken the British variant to be the largest variant in Britain. So this is just ridiculous. And as someone who also is running for school board and that sort of a thing, that it's and I've got a daughter in school, it's just enraging. So this is from World Socialist website. This is educators angered over scrapping of COVID-19. I don't think we know for sure. Yeah, I expect it's going to have something to do. We read an article on this a little while ago. I think I want to say 60% effective or something like that, at least on one set of the vaccines. I don't know. We don't know for sure yet, and that's part of the problem that I have. We don't know how well the current vaccines work on this variant, and we also don't know what the retransmission rates are for that. I mean, that's the big thing we need to know. If you're vaccinated and you get it, what's the likelihood you're going to retransmit, and how effective will it be on you to keep you safe and others safe? And we don't have enough data on that yet, and that's what we honestly need. Yeah, not just against the Delta variant, but all the other variants as well. I mean, how well do the vaccines work against all the variants and prevent or affect retransmission, and of course, how sick you get out of it, because that's important. I mean, if the vaccines are like 90-some% effective at keeping you from retransmitting it, that's a big deal. That is big, because that honestly, that metric is what we need to know in order to start opening up. Because even though you're vaccinated, if there's still a 60% chance or 40% chance rate you can retransmit it, the vaccine, it only protects you from the worst of it, even though you can give it to others still, and that's not enough. Then we should still be locking down. We should still be, social distancing, masking, and all that sort of stuff till we get Ben Shapiro. Oh my God, no, that fucking tool. He is a horrible human being. No, it's kind of funny in the middle of the video. Show some funny clips. How long is it? I don't. He just enrages me. Did you guys see the tweet by PragerU talking about racism in the U.S.? Let's see, Twitter. It's 6 minutes, but most of it is debunking trans ideology. But in the middle, there's some funny shit. Okay. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so here it is. PragerU. Young people are enamored with anti-racist rhetoric because they think they are fighting racist systems in America. The truth is that they are fighting America itself and the very values the country was founded on. There's nothing more truthful than that. Finally, PragerU, this right-wing disinformation network, gets something right, and it's amazing. This is exactly right. Foundations of America is racism. I'm actually probably going to add this to one of my posts and a link to it.
This is being championed.
Oh my God, I just want to beat his face in. He's just so horrible. Okay, where's this from? This is actually on. Skip to part showing the trans couple, baby. Okay, I can't do this. I can't do this. His face just. This topic, I'll take a look at it later. How about that?
This is being championed.
That way I can deal with my rage appropriately. Put over here. God, he's so horrible. So horrible. I'll go ahead and See if I can copy this. Can I copy this? Hello? So how do I copy the... All right, here. I'll just drop this in here. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll watch the video on my own, so I can deal with my rage issues against him because he's horrible. Horrible human being. All right, here we go. COVID. This is from 18 hours ago, so it's from yesterday. Civilian Climate Corps. I'll get you the article on it. This is they're suggesting. Here we go. So it's like a federal jobs guarantee sort of thing, focused on doing climate stuff. Here's the article on it here. Using hiring people, like they're saying 300,000 people a year for 5 years, I think it is. And working on clearing brush, maybe working on sustainable energy, doing controlled burns and that sort of a thing. So that's what it is. Welcome. Requetes. How you doing today? Where are you from? I'm from the Wisconsin in the United States. Good. I'm glad you're doing well. Spain. Oh, okay. Navarre. Okay. I've only been to... I've been to Palma de Mallorca. When I was in the Navy. I was there. It's a huge tourist trap, but it was interesting. It was a long time ago. 90, probably 95, 96, somewhere around there. Yeah, easily 20 years ago, if not more. I can't do math. Cool. Well, thanks for dropping by. We're covering, right now we're going to read an article. Here in the United States, educators angered over scrapping of COVID-19 mitigation measures in schools. Mostly we're looking at the CDC giving into political pressures from the Biden administration. We've seen this. Yes, it does. Yep, the website is World Socialist Website. I get some articles from here, not so many. But this one is pretty interesting. And if you're new here, I blog about politics. If you're really bored and want to go to sleep. And I have my own policy site as well. Interstellar New Deal. Just want to find out where I stand politically. It's here, and I'm running for school board as well as a thing. So there's that. Yeah. All right. So let's do this. This was posted yesterday. Last Friday, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention released new guidelines on reopening K-12 schools, encouraging the reckless repudiation of all safety measures. A note in the summary of recent changes section on the guidelines stated that the CDC added language on the importance of offering in-person learning regardless of whether all of the prevention strategies can be implemented at the school. The first bullet point in the key takeaways section reads, students benefit from in-person learning and safely returning to in-person instruction in the fall is a priority. Okay, sure. But at the expense of what? The corporate media has wholeheartedly supported the CDC's revisions. Of course they have, because they're corporate shills. They want everything to go back to normal so they can start making more money. With the New York Times noting in an article the country's two major teachers unions, which have a close relationship with the Biden administration, praised the guidance. Okay, so this right here, you know we're fucked, right? The country's two major teachers unions, which have a close relationship with Biden, praise the guidance. Therefore, we know they are corporatist. Therefore, we know that they are controlled by their management who don't give a flying fuck about the teachers. right? And this has happened, during the election season that, some unions said, hey, we're supporting Biden, even though the people said, fuck no, we want Bernie Sanders, right? This is another one of those things where the teachers union the management is screwing over everyone due to political benefits. Randy Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, whose members in some cases fought the reopening of schools this past school year, said the recommendations are grounded in both science and common sense. Yeah, no, they're not. Zero common sense. Kids aren't vaccinated yet. And we've got the Delta variant coming down. The CDC's repudiation of safety measures takes place while summer school is still in session, with the majority of districts having opened their doors to as many students as possible. In most districts, large numbers of teachers have opted out of teaching this summer, meaning that understaffed classrooms may be packed with students. In New York City, the largest school district in the U.S. with roughly 1.1 million students, 200,000 have enrolled in summer school. Los Angeles United School District, the second largest with 660,000 students, has roughly 100,000 students enrolled in summer school. Numerous other districts have 5 to 10 times their normal summer school enrollment, while major outbreaks have already happened this summer, in summer school programs. Right, they will, because summer school programs tend to be a lot more lax and a lot more, kids having fun when they do that. They're breathing more. They're only wearing fucking cloth masks, which are only 3 to 5% effective or something like that. And they're not wearing full N95 masks. Therefore, infections are going to happen. They're not appropriately protected. The school reopening campaign orchestrated by the CDC, Democratic and Republican politicians. You know we're fucked if everyone's working on it. Teachers' unions and the corporate media has been met with outrage among educators who oppose this reckless endangerment of millions of children, educators, parents, and the broader population. Yeah, no shit. They recognize the enormous dangers posed as this takes place under conditions in which the highly infectious and lethal Delta variant is already the dominant strain in the U.S. and is causing a major surge in infections. Exactly, and this is what I've been saying as we've been covering this, right? And I wasn't going to originally get vaccinated because I wanted to wait until things had been tested thoroughly. We know what's going on because they hadn't fully tested it yet. But what got me to get vaccinated was the B.1.1.7 variant from Britain was here, and it was supposedly potentially worse for children. And I've got a daughter, daughter and family to look out for. So I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna have to get vaccinated. But now with this Delta variant, which is, we read that article last week, is 225% more infectious than the original strain. And the amount of infectant viral load in the body is it's 1,000 times larger than it is from the original strain. I mean, there's so much danger from this Delta variant. And it's much more deadly too. I mean, Jesus. And they're like, oh yeah, let's open up. Yeah, everything's gonna be fine. It'll be fine. San Diego teacher who wished to remain anonymous told the World Socialist website, the pandemic taught me that to students I can be a lifeline and mentor even through a screen. It also taught me that for my school district I can be a tool and easily replaceable should I get sick. Lifting the mask requirement puts us and our families at risk, ignores science and data from around the world, and it ultimately costs our communities more than the price of extending online learning. Many of my colleagues feel the same way, but are scared to speak up. She added, the union is actively dismissing and alienating those of us with reasonable objections or questions. Admin is pressuring us to ignore warnings and extend ourselves to make up for lost time. It's the beginning of a dark time for education. A Connecticut teacher stated, try explaining to an elderly mother why she is standing at the foot of her son's bed, who is dying due to COVID because he was unable to be vaccinated, and the complications from diabetes have now created a terminal illness. Explain to her why her son is dying before her. Teachers have known for years that students are more than just a number. The hyper-focus on testing through Common Core, which needs to fucking die, and assessment and quantitative research has led us to now quantify human life and decide who is more important and who gets to have their mommy at kindergarten graduation, who gets to grow old and die before their children. People are worth more than numbers. If every life is precious, why are we doing this? Where are the pro-life protesters? Where are the people fighting for the most vulnerable and at risk? The two political parties in this country are defunct and they've lost their way. Yeah. Oh no, they're not. They definitely have their way. They're both right-wing parties. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. Murdering us and making us feel good about it. Retired New York educator commented, I am very much against this decision. Right now, my son's fully vaccinated friend who is visiting from Boston is in an Airbnb in Brooklyn suffering with COVID. I'm very much against the no mask, no social distancing policy. It's a recipe for disaster, especially in overcrowded schools. True dat. Michigan teacher told the World Socialist website, I am very upset about the CDC removing mask requirements in schools. I am a high school teacher, and during the pandemic, several of my students were very sick due to COVID. One of my students lost her father due to COVID, and the entire family had COVID as well. My niece is 9 years old. She had COVID, and about a month later, the entire class had to sit out because one of the classmates contracted COVID. This is absolutely going to be a crisis. Middle and high school teachers see the 150 or more students a day, and we can't remember who has the vaccine or not while we are trying to teach. Please keep the mask mandates in school. Several teachers that are at the retirement age are ready to come out if you all don't make sure. Several teachers that are at the retirement age are ready to come out if you all don't make sure the teachers are safe. Come out of retirement? That doesn't make sense. There has been a torrent of opposition on social media. In the Educators Rank and File Safety Committee Facebook group, a retired educator commented, I retired, but if I were going back, I would still wear an N95 mask and have a big stockpile of them. I don't see any sense in taking a chance when wearing a mask is or should be a no-brainer with some legitimate medical exceptions. I was just looking on the TV at statistics of people who have died from the Delta variant, and I think it was about 99.2% unvaccinated. Well, I have no desire to take a chance of being one of that 0.8%. Following responses to a post decrying the CDC's reversal on the Facebook group Teachers Against Dying, there you go, which had many likes, are representative of the outlook of many teachers. This is BS if vaccinations aren't mandated unless there is a medical condition preventing it. How are we going to know who's vaccinated or not? A lot of people are going to die or die sooner directly because of this decision. Many of them would not if masks were mandated, let alone the vaccine. Yep, let's welcome them all back. And while we're at it, why do they have to have any vaccines? Let's just send them all. Yeah, again, mask, social distance, this is definitely going to be required. Many comments ridiculed and mocked the CDC with one saying, CDC, conflicting directives continue. Another CDC, capitalist death cult. There you go. This one's appropriate. Again, giving in to political pressure from the Biden administration to open up to give them a win. That's all this is. It's just politics. To maintain the Democratic Party's illusion that they are the party of progress and that they're here, making everything normal again. Another post replying to the CDC's blatant disregard for the well-being of children stated, the COVID distribution center doesn't care about that. Many teachers pointed to the underlying economic motives behind the back-to-school campaign, with one commenting, America doesn't care as long as they get the kids out of the house. Another replied, exactly, it's about capitalism, not saving lives. Profits over people once again. It just makes me so angry that CDC doesn't seem to care about kids. Post with over 200 likes in the Teachers Against Dying simply read in big letters, Dear CDC, we still don't have vaccines for 0 to 11, in case you forgot. Yeah, exactly. I think the Pfizer vaccine was opened for 5 to 11, I think. I think my daughter has her... No, 12 to 15, I think it was. 12 to 15? Or 12 to 18? I think it was. I'm not sure. Some kids are able to get it with the Pfizer one. But yeah, I don't think anything's been opened up fully to children yet. I think think Moderna has filed to have their vaccine accepted for all, but I can't remember if that was them or someone else. On the Facebook group Teacher Problems, a post calling for responses decried the CDC's reversal, stating, "This personally frustrates me because I know that the school isn't going to keep track of who is vaccinated and who is not, meaning unvaccinated individuals who are against masks aren't going to wear them." These are two of the representative replies to the post. "In my state, even those who are vaccinated are getting the new variant. Bad enough to be hospitalized." Yeah, and this is what I've seen a few on Twitter. There's been a few people posting this, that they were vaccinated and they got... yes, I think Fauci is in charge. And of course, that's obviously problematic. But yeah, I think he is. I don't think they've replaced him. I don't think they've replaced him yet. So yeah, this Delta variant is overpowering. But well, one of the cases, I can't remember if they're fully vaccinated or if they only had one dose. But some people are vaccinated and they are getting the Delta variant, and it's not fucking around. Be afraid of the Delta variant. Nope, I am fully vaccinated and I'll be wearing a mask, like me. My 9-year-old daughter, who has not been vaccinated, will also be wearing a mask. The Delta variant has us a little on edge right now. I need to see how things will pan out before I am comfortable with no masks completely. Yeah, it's gonna be a while. Several educators wrote responses to a request by this author for statements, including the following. The CDC has shown itself to be just as politicized under Biden as it was under the tyrant. In our current dystopia, profits still take primacy over health. Tragically, this time around, many children will be at even greater risk because, at least before, there were mask mandates. Neoliberalism always paves the way for further tyranny or death for profit. CDC is nothing but a political tool, and they have not been interested in safety, science, or reality this entire pandemic. Vaccinations need to be required for everyone in a school building, and masks need to be required for everyone until they all get vaccinated. Anything less is unsafe and will put children, staff, and their family members in the hospital and in the morgue. Legitimate scientists and doctors have been clear on this. The infrastructure of this country depends on the free babysitting during the day of schools, but we need to stop sacrificing students and school staff for this nation's blood money, which is all the CDC has ever been doing. Yeah, and this is getting the CDC to actually be an independent organization, not being handled by by politics is important. Because right now it's always going to be at the whims of whoever's in charge. Like Republicans have for decades kept the CDC from investigating gun violence. They've prevented them from investigating doing work on actual gun violence. At the behest of the NRA, of course. There is undoubtedly mass opposition to the homicidal reopening policies of the ruling elite, as shown by teachers' responses. The principal barrier between the desires of educators to defend their lives and livelihoods, as well as that of their students, their families, and the general public, is both political and an organizational one. The unions have isolated educators' struggles at every turn and work to disorient the opposition by instilling illusions in the Democratic Party and the Biden administration, as well as dividing educators against each other and other workers through the promotion of racialist politics. Car-centric infrastructure is killing the world. Yep, definitely. And again, when we talk about that sort of a thing, we need to completely rethink and rebuild our cities from the ground up to be centralized. And having all of our cities having been emerged organically, and pretty much requires cars. So we have to start tearing down our old cities, building new cities from the ground up to have mass transportation and things of that nature. That's what we need to be doing, and that's part of my policies. And also having cities, start to put in some level of mass transportation would be one way to help deal with this. But it's expensive, and it becomes very inefficient when you put it within an organically evolved cityscape to help make it work. Teachers can still wear masks, though, and probably will. We need to radically reform. So, yeah, we need to radically reform zoning laws. Yeah, and that's, when with my policies, look at my environmental policies, we need to, that's definitely what we need to do. And what I say is we need to look at things like my God. The path to truly affordable housing is, yes, high density buildings. That's exactly right. There's Atlas pillars? Arcologies. Holy crap. Arcologies. Yeah, there's where the fuck is it? Okay, here we go. All right, comprehensive planning for urban tomorrow. Yep. So EcoGecko has good videos on suburbs. Okay, if you have a video, throw it in here. There we go. Arcologies. Yeah. So yeah, building up and building high density and building very green is the way we need to do it. I mean, there is just some numbers run by Science and Futurism with Isaac Arthur and their bunch of people. We could house the entirety of everyone in this country in giant arcologies, large giant buildings with all the amenities and green spaces and that sort of stuff. And you have one every mile along the coastlines of our country, and you could have the entire interior of the United States as wilded. Just be wildlands. Obviously, building up is not everyone's keen on that, but if we really look at how well we could build up, look at like 5-star hotels and the amenities, service, and the automation involved with that, and then you add that with and you've got the elevators, and then the monorails going to and from the different ones. Yeah, we definitely need that. We can build up with our colleges, build down with earth scrapers under the ground, which might actually be more needed now as climate change is getting hotter and hotter, and a skyscraper might be harder to deal with, especially when there's fires going on. So having it under the ground might be a better thing, easier to keep it cool and that sort of a thing. So yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Okay, EcoGecko. EcoGecko, there we go. All right, I will take a look at this. I am live on YouTube too, yeah. Hopefully it looks okay. I'm streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch all at the same time. All right, I will definitely take a look at this. Not heard of this person. All right, I'll move that over here. Look. So yeah, high density buildings, and but we need to make them. Much of what the dystopian future sort of stuff looks is these buildings will be high density, and there will be not a lot of room. People will be crunched in there, and it's not going to be good. And that's not what we should be aiming towards. People need space to grow. Our living spaces. I was saying like 1,000 square foot a person, which is. So it's off a little bit, but starting with that as the basis for the math of what everyone should have access to for space, then you've got the like pools and tennis courts and offices, and you've got a whole bunch of green spaces available, at the various levels. As you get into like what our colleges are, just crap loads of green spaces, we can really transform the way we live on this planet and make it better for everyone. But it's expensive and requires people to give a flying fuck about people, humanity going extinct and all that stuff. But it's not Not everyone cares. But yeah, teachers can still wear masks. Hopefully that I expect that'll probably be a an option they will be given if not told, if they aren't told outright that they shouldn't, because ooh, it'll make people afraid. Go fuck yourself. I don't want to die. In my school district is also looking at doing that as well, opening up this September, and I'm not overly keen on that. So I guess we're gonna see how that goes. Okay. Teachers must form rank and file committees independent of the unions, uniting with broader sections of the working class in the U.S. coming into struggle. All those who wish to fight for this perspective should contact us to get involved. Okay, there we go. It's the article on this. This is annoying. I know I'm dealing with this here as well. Unfortunately, my daughter is wearing masks and stuff like that. She's having a problem with it, so we'll see what this next school year brings us. All right, any other questions, comments, suggestions? What are we at? We're at 47. All right. Now we've got this one. This is from February of last year. Cuba found to the most sustainable until it's not, I suppose. Yeah, pretty much. Especially, this is from last year. Now with the protests and stuff going on there, it's yeah, I guess we'll see what they have to say. What have I just done? I did this backwards. All right. January of last year. I don't think this one is too big. No, it's pretty small. Okay, so Cuba found to be the most sustainable developed country in the world, new research finds. I wonder how they did this, because we've read the article on, we read some stuff on, what the hell is that country that's, yeah, exactly. That's the question there. How do they call it as developed? That's exactly the question right there. Let's see what they have to say here. So what is that country that, oh my god, I can't remember what it's called. Okay. Capitol building in, okay, that's what this is here. The Capitol building in Havana, Cuba. Cuba is the most sustainably developed country in the world. According to a new report launched today, the socialist island outperforms advanced capitalist countries including Britain and the United States, which has subjected Cuba to punitive 6 decades long economic blockade. The Sustainable Development Index, designed by an anthropologist and author Dr. Jason Hickel, calculates its results by dividing the nation's human development score, obtained by looking at statistics on life expectancy, health, and education, by its ecological overshoot, the extent to which the per capita carbon footprint exceeds the Earth's natural limits. Okay, so that makes sense. Countries with strong human development and lower environmental impact score highly. The countries with poor life expectancy and literacy rates, as well as those which exceed ecological limits, are marked down. Based on the most recent figures, from 2015, Cuba is top scorer with 0.859, while Venezuela is 12th and Argentina is 18th. The SDI was created to update the Human Development Index, developed by Pakistani economist Baaad ul-Haq, and used by the United Nations Development Program to produce its annual reports since 1990. The HDI considers life expectancy, education, gross national income per capita, but ignores environmental degradation caused by economic growth ignores environmental degradation caused by the economic growth of top performers such as Britain and the US. Okay, so that's, why would the fuck would they do that? Ignores the environmental degradation caused by economic growth. What? Why would you do that? These countries are major contributors to climate change and other forms of ecological breakdown, which disproportionately affects the poorer countries in the global south, where climate change is already causing hunger rates to rise. Okay, yep, that is true. In this sense, the HDI promotes a model of development that is empirically incompatible with ecology, which embodies a fundamental contradiction. Achieving high development, according to HDI, means driving de-development elsewhere in the world. For a development indicator that purports to be universal, such contradiction is indefensible. Britain ranked 14th in 2018's HDI, falls to 131st in the SDI, while the US 13th in the Al-Haq Index is 159th out of 163 countries featured in the new system. Okay, so that's, yeah, US is bad because of inequality and stuff, okay. Mr. Hickel added, the SDI ranking reveals that all countries are still developing countries with the highest levels of human development still need to significantly reduce their ecological impact, while countries with the lowest levels of ecological impact still need to significantly improve their performance on social indicators. Okay, so that sounds like it's doing okay, because we're looking at if you have a high level of development economically through business and infrastructure, that will generally tend to reduce your ecological impact or create a harmful impact on the environment. So finding a way that people can make the environment better while still expanding is kind of the key thing. And when you look at my policies and the introduction and the books you need to read, one of the books really kind of talks about this very concept. The Donut Economics book. It's right here. If you want to read more about this is an amazing book. It really kind of encapsulates the way I basically think about economics and the environment and stuff like that. And actually where's the image here? The image, is this here? It's not here. Hold on. Nope, not here. Yeah, so if you want to take a look at it, there's a 17-minute video of her talking about it, and this is her her wheel, the donut wheel, which talks about there are certain things like education, level of education, literacy, life expectancy, that sort of stuff, as being things that we're working towards here. Then the environmental overshoot, environmental and ecological issues over here. So you can kind of rate where a country is doing based on this sort of a thing. And it's a really good book. A whole bunch of links here. I'll throw that in here for you to take a look. All right, sustainable development. And what did they say for the US? We're at 160. So now they say Costa Rica's at top. Where the fuck is Cuba? Okay, Cuba's 9. United Kingdom, 135. United States is 160. Yeah, so we're really far down on here. And these are, so this is probably how they're rating right here, what you can see here. Life expectancy, expected years of schooling, mean years of schooling, income, GNI per capital constant. Is that Gini coefficient per capital constant? I'm not sure what this is. CO2 emissions per capita in tons. Material footprint per tons. Yeah, so we need things like this. We need to start rating, our countries based on how well they actually are doing, just much like they're doing here, right? by education, life expectancy, maternal health, and all that sort of things, and also compared to their ecological, how they affect the environment. Yeah, and that's something we need to do broadly anyhow. If we are actually going to create a society which cares about human existence, these are the sorts of things we need to be doing. Because without it, we don't have a clue. Don't have a clue how well we're doing or how poor we're doing. Well, how poor we're doing. I guess that's the the assumption we're going to make there, right? All right. So, yeah. Yeah, definitely. These books, read these books. Spirit Level, Inner Level, Donor Economics, The New Human Rights Movement. Got to read it. Those 4 books are super important to understanding the world, why it's broken, and how we can start to fix it. All right, so reached the end of the stream. Yeah, just a little bit of time left. If you guys have any last minute questions, comments, and suggestions before we go, you can go ahead and do that. If you're into Baldur's Gate was, they have a new patch coming out, but it was delayed. It was supposed to come out today. It's delayed until next Thursday. So I have to wait on that. This Thursday, Warhammer 40K's Battle Sector is coming out. So I'll get access to that, and I'll probably be playing that this weekend. I'd like to stream something, maybe even put some videos out on it, but I don't know if I'm... The problem is I suck at games. I'm tactically impaired. So I don't know if it's not going to be entertaining from, the standpoint of me not sucking the whole time, then I probably won't do it. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, then Humankind comes out next month, towards the end of the month. Looking forward to that. Because I suck at that too. All right. Last minute questions, comments, suggestions. Anything? Anybody? You don't have to. It's not required. For some reason, I don't think it's sending stuff to Facebook. I don't know why it's not doing that. I have to check that out. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you for gifting me with your time. I really do appreciate it. Everyone have a great week. Again, I stream on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. If you want to follow me in places, I've got, my Facebook, Twitter, all my blog, my policies, Discord, all that stuff is downstairs. If you want to support me on Patreon, that's downstairs too, as well. So, yeah, have a great week, everyone. We'll see you guys on Thursday. See you later.
Just me and you, let's make up all the rules. Count to 10 and watch the stars turn blue. Watch the stars.